What's up, y'all? This is John and Mike back for another episode of the Nothing Finder podcast. Once again, we are live on Millions. If you have not caught one of our live streams, go check it out. It's pretty fun. You can interact with us in the comments there. We can answer your questions live on the show. It's a good time. But while we are talking about Millions, I do want to remind you about our merch. The new stuff is not quite ready yet, but it is in the works. So keep an eye out there. We will also post it to our social media. But for this episode, we are talking about the national championship that was played on Monday night just a little bit, and then going over Georgia's 2023 season ahead of the second annual Nuthies, is what I'm calling them. And that
Okay.
is our Nothing Finder Award show. We'll be giving out golden kegs on Sunday, live on Million. So you should get in on that because we will be watching the comments there. But before we get into all that, how's your week been and what are you drinking?
I've been sick as a dog this week. Got a bulging eardrum when I went to the doctor. The doctor looked at my ear and said, "Ew," like the very first thing. So that's always cool.
Because you got that
To
dog in you was trying to get out in
Yeah,
through your ear.
there we go. And yeah, just what's the purpose of having sinuses? That's my question. Because I get sinus infections, respiratory infections like this time every year the past like 6, 7 years. What is the point?
I mean, the scientific reason is it's supposed to filter out allergens and bacteria before it gets into your lungs.
Well,
Um,
mine ain't doing that.
well, no, the problem is it. So when you get a sinus infection, it's not that you're not doing it; it's that your body's overreacting to the different allergens and bacteria. So like when pollen gets in there, your body's thinking it's bacteria and overreacting to it, swelling up your sinuses so that it can't get to your lungs.
So what you're saying is my body is always giving like 150%.
Correct.
Hell yeah, I'm an overachiever. Let's go.
Yes, but we actually texted about this earlier in the week. I got sinus infections real bad for almost my entire life until a few years ago. Then I went to an ENT doctor, the doctor that like specializes in sinuses, and he was like, "Oh, fun fact, your septum's deviated so far to one side you can't breathe through that part of your nose. So we should
Mhm.
fix that." And since then I went from one sinus infection, I'd be better for a week to another my entire life. To I get maybe like one or two a year and it lasts a week.
There we go. I would love that because it's like 3 or 4 months at a time now.
Yep,
So
that's how it
I'll
was for
take
my
it.
entire life.
Yeah. It's only been like that since I moved south. But besides that, when I'm drinking, just drinking water because
Um,
push this shit out. How about you?
so exciting news for me and me alone. Since my shoulder surgery a few weeks ago, this evening was the first time I have been able to play disc golf,
Okay.
which that's I probably dedicate way too much of my time to that. Kelsey hates it. We get in arguments about it. But I didn't get to play a full nine because, if I'm being honest, I forgot we were recording tonight, or didn't get to play a full 18. So on like hole seven, I was like, "Oh, I got to get home like now." So I left and came here, but I played 7 holes and don't hurt, so that is a very good sign.
There you go.
Um, and snagged a PBR from one of my friends before I left, so that is what I'm drinking because I'm out of the
Yeah.
sling. I'm feeling good, and I said
Mm.
it at in November. Once I was out of the sling and feeling good, I would end my um, abstinence. You know, that's what we love to preach in the South. So
hmm It's the only way. The
correct.
only.
Um, But yeah, man, feeling good. I've just since Monday when I took the sling off, I have I don't know, like I can get my arm from by my side to like 45% of the way up, as in like 45% of the way to here. So I'm like just below shoulder height.
hmm
So I'm already ahead of where the doctor wants me to be. Once again,
Yeah.
we're just a
Are
bunch
you
of overachievers.
are you doing PT or?
I start tomorrow. I haven't even done
Oh,
physical therapy yet, and I'm already at a decent amount of movement. So
There you go.
pretty excited
Sweet.
about that.
Yeah, there you go.
Um, Something you're pretty excited about. Michigan ended the 75-year drought of undisputed national titles on Monday in what I think is fair to say it was a closer game than the final score indicates.
Yeah, that's fair to say for sure.
I mean, it was a 7 point game until 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and Washington got desperate, and that's kind of what gave Michigan 7 of the 14 points that they ended up winning by, or 7 of the extra 14 points they won by. Is probably how I should put that.
Mhm. Yeah, man, it was
And
like
yeah,
at times they so first and fourth quarters belonged to Michigan. The second and third, it was a toss up. It was kind of like I have it in here, kind of like how Georgia, played with their food a little bit in like 2022 and 2023 at times. Michigan kind of did that certainly against Alabama in the Rose Bowl for a bit of time because they should have blew out Alabama, but they, obviously kept it close and went to
the food
overtime.
bit back a little bit in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, it upchucked it a little bit. But and they kind of did the same thing. So like the running game for Michigan was working really, really well in the first quarter. I mean, Donovan Edwards has been pretty much invisible the entire season up until that. He had two 40+ yard runs. Very nice. I
The
mean,
first quarter belonged to Donovan Edwards. That
yeah, he had
was
like 87 yards in the first quarter or something like that.
the first quarter was every Michigan fan in the world saying that's who he's supposed to be.
hmm That was the Donovan Edwards that we saw in the Ohio State game in 2022. That's one of the things that we had
Yes.
talked about in the preview of it is like we needed to see something like that, and that's exactly what we saw right away. So I was feeling great at the beginning
And then the middle
of it.
half happened.
Yeah, then the middle half happened. Then I think I I don't know the rationale because like the running game was working, and then they decided to try to go away from that and said, you know what? Let's try to get JJ some shine. We want him to, be a first round pick, and it didn't end up going that well for him. I mean, he was clutch like when he needed to be. He was what 10 of 18 for 140 yards, but one of the uh, a third of that almost came on one pass to Colston Loveland, their tight end.
I will
So.
say in the second and for most of the third quarter, Washington was able to stop the run game,
Mhm.
which is kind of why they went more pass happy. That this was a game that two very good coaching staffs went head to head and made adjustments in every single drive.
Mhm.
And if you appreciate the game to that extent, it was great to see.
It was. It was. It was good. I mean, like probably not for casuals because again, like the second and third quarters really didn't have much going on. But
The
I
second
mean,
and
it was
third
cool to
quarters
see.
were the battle of the bulge.
Yeah.
No, a long time of just a lot of nothing.
Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, Blake Corum had a nice run too, like somewhere in there, and like I mean, in the Michigan defense, kind of, we talked about it in the preview. How would they react to a completely different game plan and preparing differently for? Because obviously Alabama was, run first and try to hit home run balls. And Washington at times tried to run with Dylan Johnson. He obviously wasn't 100%, so he really couldn't get a whole lot going. But I mean, that Michigan defense was able to. I mean, they hit the shit out of Michael Penix. They blew up that offensive line that won the Joe Moore Award, which again I put in here was I think that award is more of a curse than anything.
I would have to agree with that. I really would.
Because I mean, you look going back to 2021, Michigan won that. They played against Georgia, just got completely just obliterated. They weren't able to do anything against Georgia in that year. Kind of the same deal, last year too. So I mean, it's a gift and a curse. Their guards looked very average to below average. They kept getting thrown into Michael Penix, disrupting his throwing motion. I think he rolled an ankle because uh, one of his uh, one of his guards got just completely knocked on his ass and into his legs.
That play. So I remember talking about this play to Kelsey, and we there were some friends of ours that came over. He was actually So the defensive lineman got him on that one. He won
Yeah,
off the ball, but his problem is he tripped over the center's foot and fell
yeah.
backwards.
Hmm.
Like he would have been able to hold on for maybe a second or two longer, but as soon as 330, 340 pounds loses his balance, it's
Hmm.
going down.
Yeah. And I mean, Penix, I mean, he was what? He was 27 to 51 for 255 yards, a touchdown, two picks. I mean, he tried his damnedest to keep them in that game, and what can you do?
I
I mean, he was getting
so
abused.
so I will say one of my biggest gripes with Washington and their game plan going into this is it seemed like in the first quarter they were like, we're an air raid team, so we're
Mhm.
gonna run almost every down.
They won't see that coming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the best run defenses in the country won't be able to stop us with four. What are you
Yeah, they
talking about?
won't even practice that.
Yeah,
Why? Yeah.
And in almost every run play they had, one of their slants was wide open. And it's
Hmm.
like, at some point, you're like, hey, this game plan kind of sucks. Let's do what we're good at. And they
Hmm.
didn't really do that until the end of the second, start of the third quarter,
Yeah.
and that drove me insane. And then by
Hmm.
the time they started hitting those slants and crossing routes and out routes, and they like mid third, late third quarter when they were looking good,
Hmm.
they were down so much only option they had was to short pass deep. Oh shit, it's fourth down.
Hmm. And Penix missed a couple guys that were wide open too at times, like in the seam and all of that. But again, he couldn't step up in the pocket because it was
No.
just getting obliterated. So I mean, uh, and then just I mean, him throwing left-handed kind of screws up everything with the way you look at it
Yes.
too. It's like if I mean if he was right-handed, you probably wouldn't think anything about his throwing motion. But like even when that touchdown pass that he had at the end of the second quarter, that again Michigan kind of gifted them good field position there by going forward on fourth and then not converting, just having this I don't know, this awful pass by JJ. But it, it's so weird. It's kind of Tebow-esque in a way. Like I don't know, it feels like he like Penix like holds the ball like at his waist or like that, and then it's all of a sudden like flicks it up and it's like elongated. It takes a minute sometimes. Like it just I don't know. The whole left-handed thing screws me up looking at it, and that's probably his biggest. I don't know. The people that hate on him probably fall back to that. But do you think he lost money this game?
I think if you look at his skill set, no.
Mm,
And so the reason I say that is because I mean just look at last year's draft. And Anthony Richardson went fourth overall because of his skill set,
yeah.
right? So, I we'll get way deep into draft talk later, but tell me, try to convince me that Michael Penix is not a left-handed Matthew Stafford.
That's a good comp. I like that. Yeah.
Same body type,
Hmm.
same like they remind me so much of each other, and at the same time, Matthew Stafford's in his 16th year in the NFL. He's got a Super Bowl ring. I mean,
Michael Penix isn't fat Stafford though. He's pretty cut.
yes, and Michael Penix has the mobility that Matthew Stafford thought he did when he was a rookie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, do I think he'll drop a little bit? Yes, but I never really thought that he was a first round guy because of the style of offense that they ran.
Yeah.
And that's not to take away. I mean, I think that Michael Penix can be a long term NFL guy. I really do.
Mhm.
But playing an air raid offense in college kind of limits what teams think about you. But if he gets to the combine and, hope his ribs and ankle and everything else that Michigan injured on him heal up
Yeah.
because the way he was limping and holding his ribs walking through that tunnel, he still hurts.
Oh, for sure. He gave everything he had to Washington.
Absolutely.
I mean, if it wasn't for him, they would have got it. It may have been like a TCU game last year.
I,
Yep. And that's what
you
we were
know,
saying at the beginning of the game. I mean, the first two drives, when Michigan scored, we're like, oh shit, Washington better score on every drive if they want to keep up with them. And then obviously,
I
adjustments were made and all that. But
I can't tell you how many different drives during the game where I said if Washington doesn't get points here, it's over.
mhm,
And then right before half, I set one, and they got
yeah,
it. And then it was like
yeah,
every time I would send that text, they would get points just to keep themselves in it.
yeah,
And then the fourth quarter just really killed them. And that's so I we hadn't talked about it as much this year, but I know we talked about it a lot last year. The depth Michigan has at every position, having recruited at a well above average level over the
mhm,
last really since Harbaugh got there, gives that quality depth, gives the ability for you to be like, all right, you know, we got three wide receivers winded right now from blocking and running routes. All right, send three more out there. And that's something that Washington in the second year of Kalen DeBoer, getting a lot of guys out of the transfer portal, don't necessarily have right now.
mhm,
But that's not to take away from what they can be in the future.
yeah. And I mean, in Michigan, their development of guys is really impressive because like they're not, I think I think they only had one 5-star guy playing, and that was I think it was JJ. He might have been a high 4-star. I can't remember, but like it's not like they're Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, and getting all these 4 and 5-star guys. I mean, it's a lot of 4 stars, but also threes and twos that they just develop into these guys that are like NFL players. And I mean, that's a credit to the system that Harbaugh has and all the development. And like Jesse Minter, I think is another like their defensive coordinator needs to be getting looked at for head coaching jobs. Obviously, Harbaugh hasn't decided whether or not he's going to the NFL or not yet. We're still waiting on that. Which again, not written down in here, but isn't that wild if Harbaugh goes to the NFL, going back all the way to 2007, we have another Michigan and Alabama opening.
Yeah,
You
that
can
is that is. We are getting to the Saban stuff
yeah.
towards the end. I promise that. But I
Mm,
did look it up. JJ was a very high 4 star.
mm. Yeah, he was I thought he was borderline. And I mean, he's been clutch. I mean, he's not losing you games certainly, but I think he definitely needs to come back one more year, help out that draft stock, especially with Blake Corum not being there and being able to lean on that.
JJ
Um,
McCarthy in that game reminded me a lot of 2021 Stetson.
I mean, the stat line was pretty well. He didn't have as many yards as Stetson, but like that
Well, I
seems
mean,
about right.
there were
Yeah,
multiple games that Stetson had less than 200 yards in
mhm,
2021, and it was he did enough to win and never had a bad play.
yeah. hmm That's I was gonna say like Greg McElroy in the 2009 championship.
I mean, that's also a good one.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, same deal. Like he nothing wows you, but I mean, it was good enough to get the job done, and ultimately that's what matters. Or the third or fourth 15-0 team we've had. Is it,
Fifth,
it's fifth, is it? Oh,
fifth total. Only
mhm.
the third or fourth in the playoff era. We talked about it the other day.
Yeah. You got LSU, Georgia in 22. Them, yeah.
Bama or
Clemson,
Clemson
Clemson,
2018.
yeah.
Uh,
So four in the playoff area.
yeah. So I will say there were some missed calls.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And I don't want to gloss over this because of how much we do harp on officiating. But that holding call on Michigan that or Washington that called back one of the
Yeah.
biggest plays of the entire game.
hmm
That happened literally every play on both offensive lines all game long.
And that at that point, Washington was only down by 7.
Correct. And that
They
put
could have tied it
them
up in that drive, but that killed their momentum.
and then what was it? Like the very first or that it was the Colson Loveland long pass that like I don't want to overstate this, but Michigan was damn near horse collaring Washington on that play,
Yeah.
and it
Oh
it, it wasn't called for holding, and that I'm not going to say that, those two calls in particular swung the entire game. Because at the end of the day, Michigan was a better team. Defense still wins championships. But it might have been a more exciting fourth quarter.
Yeah. Mhm.
And that's just kind of ACC crew. What more can you expect?
I sorry. Yeah, I that's as close as they're going to get to a national championship for a long time.
Mm, damn. Not even no ACC team is supposed to be mentioned on this episode, and we're still throwing shade.
Well, I mean, they might later on when we get to the Saban talk,
That's
maybe.
fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about with the national championship? I know we are getting to it late, being Thursday, but um,
Um, the I do want to mention this. So like in the celebration, the two things. The glasses that Jim Harbaugh put on, blue the blue frames or lenses or whatever. I don't know. I don't wear glasses.
those are not thick enough to match his prescription.
No, no, because yeah, he has some.
He could not see the
Yeah.
microphone he was talking into when he put those on.
And that's a recent thing too. That's like the last like 4 or 5 years that he went from like not wearing glasses at all to having like 2 inch thick frames or glass lenses.
That just throwing a theory out there. Is it possible that Jim Harbaugh was sending someone to look at those signals because he's legally blind?
Ooh, ooh.
We're throwing out some good excuses for you, Jim.
So the NCAA is trying to uh
They're ableist.
go against his ADA, rights.
Yeah. What
Ridiculous.
what the hell?
But I was saying that with those glasses though, the Buffs, the Cartier uh, frames, like that's what they wear. Like how Georgia has the Savage pads, and other teams have different turnover stuff. They have the turnover buffs. So like they wear these like $1,000 sunglasses or whatever. Like it's a very Detroit thing. So him having those on at the championship celebration was, or the trophy ceremony was pretty funny. And then his dad, Jack Harbaugh, when they brought him on stage and he said, who's got better than us, and no one. That man is damn near 80 and can probably like better shape than most of us.
I, Jack Harbaugh, he it would not surprise me in the slightest if you could find a YouTube video of him beating somebody's ass on a bus, like you see every now and then, of like an
Yeah.
old man just kicking the shit out of some guy.
Yeah.
Like I could see it. I would
Mhm.
actually love to see that video.
Yeah, he what so with Jack, he won a FCS championship at Western Kentucky, and I think Jim Harbaugh was on that staff. I'm pretty sure he was like as a grad assistant or something. I can't remember, but obviously John Harbaugh won the Super Bowl against Jim, what, 10 years ago or more at
When the
this point.
lights went out in NOLA.
Yeah, pulled it out, and San Francisco almost came back, but they
You
still
know,
blew it.
eh, random. But about that game, the fact that Joe Flacco got MVP instead of Jacoby Jones is still something that pisses me off. 109-yard kickoff return
Oh yeah,
to
yeah.
take the lead in that game,
Mhm.
and Joe Flacco got MVP. No, it's not right. It's not right. I'm still mad about it.
Joe Flacco's elite, still is.
At late in the season, Joe Flacco, it's hard to beat him.
Mhm. That wow, that's yeah, that is wild. But yeah, that's I mean that's all I had to say about it. They have their parade on Saturday. And kind of this gives me
So,
hope
so are they
this gives me hope
plowing
about the
Ann Arbor for a parade?
what's that?
Are they plowing Ann Arbor for a parade?
They're gonna have to. They're gonna get smacked this weekend. Um, they're gonna have it like how they did it at Georgia the last couple of years, like how they did it in Sanford Stadium. They're just doing it in the basketball arena. So
Oh,
it's gonna be
what
small scale.
what pussies!
I I know you waited
Look,
25 years since or what, 27 years since the last split championship. Yeah, just do it. I don't know.
look.
They would have enough people come out there for it, I'm sure. They put in the
So, so I'm not gonna say that the weather is all that similar between Athens and Ann Arbor because in reality it's not. But when you have 70% humidity, it's 12 degrees and snow flurries are outside, and you fill up Sanford Stadium, you could
Mhm.
fill up the big house.
Yeah, especially how many people would go out to and it's easy to get to Ann Arbor. Way
Yeah,
easier to Ann Arbor than it is to Athens.
like in the South, we're all bitches in the cold. In Michigan, you spend so much time at it, you can't be a bitch in the cold.
No,
So if you filled up Sanford once again when it was 12 degrees, 70% humidity, and snow flurries, you could fill up the big house if you did what Green Bay does and just says, "Hey, if you shovel the stadium, we'll give you free hot chocolate."
there you go.
Like I don't. That's a bitch move. Just I,
It's odd, but
at this
one thing
point,
I
I
will.
can't continue to throw shade at Michigan because they did win the title, but that's a bitch move.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like I said, I'm sure they can all fill it up. But one last thing, and again, this is just more me being selfish. So 2021, obviously, Georgia won the national championship. The Braves won World Series. Could we see another double up? Michigan winning the national championship. Maybe the Lions break the Bobby Lane curse, win the Super Bowl this year. I don't know. It's looking good because the rest of the NFC is falling apart.
It, I think the Lions could make it, but they got to get healthy over the next month, and that's the concern.
Mhm. Yeah, we'll. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk more about it, and this isn't a
Yeah.
Lions podcast, but I'm feeling good. But watch Matt Stafford come into Sanford Stadium, into Ford Field, and he'll win a playoff game, just not for the Lions.
Well, the Rams have
Fucking
given
irony.
him people to help win a playoff game. Is the
Yeah,
difference?
that is true.
All right. I think we are going to move on to a little bit of a 2023 recap. And if I'm being entirely honest with you guys, which I like to be, um, this is a little bit more of a rant for me, just a very prolonged rant than it is a recap. And I say that because of all of the dumb shit I have seen Georgia fans say on social media over the last week,
And there's a lot of it.
there is way too much for the situation that Georgia's in. So, this season ends the national title streak for the University of Georgia, right? Like 2 years in a row, something like 750 plus days of being national champions every single day. Can we talk about where this team was in 2020 before before we even had hope in our eyes?
Let's do it.
So, in 2020, we had just had the first not 10-win season under Kirby Smart since 2016. We had just lost to both Alabama and Florida embarrassingly. And we had just snuck by Cincinnati in the Peach Bowl. I don't think any of those are disputable facts.
No,
Since the end of that 2020 season, Georgia has gone undefeated in the regular season for 3 years in a row, something that has never been done in the SEC.
say that one more time.
Since 2020, Georgia has gone undefeated in the regular season for 3 years in a row, something that has never been done in the SEC.
Insane, insane.
Since 2020, Georgia has lost 2 games. Two. And they were both SEC championship games. One of those, they turned around a month later and beat that team in the national title game.
By 15, wasn't even particularly close until the end, or to the last
It
three
was
minutes.
close until the end.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Since 2020, Georgia has had an almost unparalleled number of draft picks and once again lost 2 games, neither of those in the regular season. Since 2020, Georgia has gone on an unprecedented SEC best. The SEC is one of the oldest conferences that are still around in college football. An SEC best 29 game win streak starting in December of 2022.
21.
21.
No,
Yeah, it was
21. Yeah.
21.
Yeah.
So, as Georgia fans, we went December, the first Sunday in December of 2021 to the first Saturday in December of 2023 without losing a game.
Like 2 calendar years.
Yeah, yeah. So while it sucks that we did not get to watch a three-peat, except Mike, he got one,
This is Mike 3P. Yeah.
and Georgia lost to Bama and Atlanta again, we are currently in a place, in a situation that this program has never, not a single time since the university's founding, since the football program started in 1892, has not a single time been in before. Not once.
Mhm.
100 and what? 31 years. This is the first time we've seen this level of success as a program.
And really, any program. I mean, really.
Yeah. Like, so the current situation sucks because if we're being honest, Georgia probably wins the playoff if they get there this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
It, if we're being completely honest with each other, I don't think you should go around saying that on social media like hundreds and hundreds and maybe even thousands of people are doing.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, Georgia came 3 points short of being the number one team in the playoff and three-peating for the first time since 1936 Minnesota Golden Gophers.
Hey, you picked the worst possible year to have a bad game in that championship.
Hell, you could have lost to Mizzou
Yeah. You could
and
have lost
still
them two
been
and
in the
then beat
playoff
Bama.
if you beat Bama.
Yep. hmm
That Carson
Man.
Beck
Yeah.
broke the SEC record for most games of over 250 passing yards to start a career with 11.
That's crazy.
So for everyone, including us, that was questioning Carson Beck up until like after the damn Vandy game, or
hmm
he broke the SEC career record of games to start their career with 250 or more passing yards by 3 games. Brock Bowers, first tight end to ever win the Mackey Award in back-to-back seasons. Brett Thorson and the rest of the special teams unit didn't allow a single punt return all season. Not a single punt return for a touchdown, but a single
Punt
punt
return.
return of positive yards from Labor Day weekend to New Year's weekend. Like, let's think about the three things I just said. All three of those have never been done before.
hmm
On top of the 4 or 5 other things that I just said have never been done before. They ended back-to-back seasons setting the record for largest bowl victories of all time. Both of those against top 5 ranked teams. TCU ranked 3rd going to the playoff last year. FSU ranked 5th going into bowl season this year.
Yep.
58 and 60 points respectively in back-to-back seasons.
hmm
Broke their own damn record. And the defense this year was worse than the last 2 seasons, probably worse than the last 4 seasons. Like this defense did not meet the standard that the team set for itself. But let's get a couple things straight. This 2023 Georgia defense, 5th in scoring defense, 9th in total defense, 18th in rushing defense, 9th in passing defense, and 1st in the country in third down defense. And this was against teams that averaged 53.2 in scoring offenses. And you want to know the teams that brought them down?
Who's
Because
that?
pretty much every single team except 2 were in the top half of the country.
Hmm.
Vandy and South Carolina.
Shoot.
Georgia played more teams this season that were in the top 50 in scoring offense than bottom 30 by a
Hmm.
far, far margin. It still finished fifth in scoring defense.
And that's funny that that we say that the defense was not up to the standard. Still being top five in scoring defense
Right.
is not bad.
So, and with that, as fans, right? So, like,
Mm.
we have given ourselves an outlet to talk about what the hell we want to talk about. But we and everybody that has a social media account that likes to talk shit on their own team, we need to put into perspective this team to not just teams in the past, but other current teams. Because what would, let's talk about another team that was over the past decade supposed to be on Georgia's level. Go back to the early 2010s. What would South Carolina do to have a defense half as good as Georgia's?
You're paying a lot.
What would they do to have an offense half as good as Georgia's? Oh, what would Florida do
Yeah.
to be half as good as the University of Georgia is right now? And like
Mhm.
that's a serious question because up until 2017, Florida kicked the shit out of Georgia almost every year.
Yep. For damn near 30 years.
Yeah. So so while it sucks that we're not talking about Georgia three-peating right now, while it sucks that we're not sitting here talking about, oh, Scott Howard's radio call for Lad McConkey's third touchdown of the title game was great.
Mhm.
We are still at a point that the University of Georgia and 99% of teams across the country have never been in before.
Mhm. I mean, we are the gold standard. This is where everybody wants to be. Everybody great how everybody for the last, 17 years graded themselves against Bama at this point. I mean, the last couple of years is obviously with the championships, but I mean, from there going forward, Georgia is that gold standard. That's what everyone else wants to achieve. They're going to grade themselves on that Georgia scale, and again, 99% of them are going to come short.
I mean, the team that just won the national title this week, every practice from February until they won the title game had a period of practice called Beat Georgia.
Hmm.
Like let's not forget that.
Yeah, team that's not even on their schedule.
Yeah, a team that's not on their schedule, not in their conference, they just expected Georgia to be in the playoff.
Hmm.
And that's something that what one other team over the last 20 years has gotten that sort of notoriety, and it's Alabama.
Yeah.
But I will say, if there's one thing that's gotten under my skin more than anything over the last week, in particular the last week, fans still complaining about Mike Bobo saying that the success of the 2023 season is in spite of Mike Bobo.
So stupid.
In 2023, with playing multiple teams with top 30 defenses, the Georgia offense put up the following yardage numbers: South Carolina, 459; Kentucky, 608;
Yeah.
Vanderbilt, 552; Florida, 486; Ole Miss, 611; Tennessee, who had a top 10 total defense, 472; Florida State, 673. In 2022, under Todd Monken, the offensive yardage high, the highest yardage number they got. This is including FCS opponents. This is including non-conference. 589 yards, and that was against TCU in a game they won 65-7.
They beat that number 3 times this season.
In 2021, under Todd Monken, the offensive yardage high was against a group of five school, UAB, with 539 yards. Georgia beat that against one, two, three Power Five schools this
Mm,
season. And not only Power Five schools, Ole Miss, top 10
top
when they
10.
played Georgia.
Mm,
Florida State, number 5 when they played Georgia. Like let's not get that out of here. And Kentucky was ranked when they played Georgia.
yeah, they're like 11th or something, right?
Yeah, just outside of the top 10.
Yeah.
Not once in Todd Monken's career at Georgia did they hit 600 yards against a Power 5 opponent, let alone an SEC opponent. And that's against two terrible Georgia Tech teams.
Yeah. Yep.
That's against two awful Georgia Tech teams. Todd Monken's offense did not get there once. Stetson's career high numbers: 4,128 passing yards, 68.3% completion, 9.1 yards per attempt, 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That is his career high, which is 2022. Carson, playing one less game, 3,941 passing yards, 72.4% completion percentage, 10 flat yards per attempt, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions.
Pretty
And
good.
none of that even brings into account that the 2023 defense did not put the offense in the ideal positions that 2021 and 2022 did. They didn't
Mm,
have short they didn't have short fields. They didn't have we're getting the ball on the 30, here's a home run pass first play.
yeah.
I think you can make an argument that 2021 and 2022 both had better running backs due to health. I think you can argue that they both had better offensive lines due to continuity. You weren't starting 2 or 3 new guys every single game because of injury.
Mm,
And the 2023 offense put up better numbers consistently against better competition. And there's still all these, you know what? I'm just going to call you a boomer. Whether you are that age or not, if you refuse to accept that the 2023 Georgia offense under Mike Bobo was not just good, but better than anything Todd Monken did at the University of Georgia, evident by the numbers that they put up, you're a boomer. And you should probably get your internet privileges taken away by the nursing home you're in.
for real. I it's a lazy take to blame Bobo for any shortcomings that this team had.
And
Just
that's
is.
not and that's not to say that the game plan going into the SEC championship game wasn't good,
Right.
or wasn't bad, because the game plan going into that game against Alabama, it wasn't good.
Mm,
It really wasn't. But neither was the defensive game plan was just as bad.
yeah. Hmm.
And at a certain point, you have to put some of the responsibility of that play on the players.
Yeah.
Like, there were plays called that weren't good, but there were decisions made that weren't good.
Hmm.
And if you are saying that Georgia didn't win the national title this year due to the offense and Mike Bobo, who the hell decided to give up 27 points to a quarterback that can't hit any sort of route under 40 yards? Oh, damn, I think you're frozen. Oh, I got you back.
Okay.
Like that, if there's one thing that's going to piss me off this offseason, and you guys will probably get tired of me saying it, is that Mike Bobo's not an offensive coordinator. Or one of the dumbest takes I've heard of the offseason, or season in general, is that Carson Beck's not a good quarterback. Carson Beck wasn't Jaden Daniels. He wasn't
No.
Michael Penix. I don't even think it's much of a stretch to say that he wasn't
Oh.
Bo Nix. But if you put up the level of play and the level of opponent against even the likes of Caleb Williams, I'm taking Carson Beck's 2023 season over Caleb Williams.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
And I don't like, yeah, sure. I look at things through red and black tinted glasses. Okay. Show me a defense, a good defense in 2023 that Caleb Williams played well against. Because I can show you 5 or 6 that Carson Beck played well against.
Yeah. Mhm.
So if you want to avoid being the dumbest person in whatever comment section you're in, avoid saying that Mike Bobo wasn't a good offensive coordinator. Just avoid that topic altogether because you will be the dumbest person in that comment section.
Absolutely. Couldn't say it any better. That best offense in Georgia history.
I, 2022 was the best offense of Georgia history until Mike Bobo and
Yeah.
Carson Beck pimp slapped 2022 and said, "Find your seat."
Mhm.
And not
And again, with
mention,
with like not as good as running backs, like you mentioned too. Like that's another thing too. Like 2021, you had Zamir White, who was doing good things for the Raiders at the end of the season. You have James Cook, who's a All Pro or at least a Pro Bowler. I mean, he had a hell of a season with Buffalo this year. So
last year you had Kenny McIntosh.
yeah.
Kenny McIntosh led Georgia in receiving in multiple games last season. Like
Mhm.
that's the kind of running back Kenny McIntosh was.
Mhm. And you were missing that. You missed that threat out of the backfield as far as like catching the ball this year. Like I mean, John Edwards or Dejan Edwards did that, at times. Kenny Milton really didn't catch it that all that much. So I mean, you're missing that whole part of the Monken offense wasn't really available to you. So
Yeah. And in all of everything I just said, doesn't even bring into account Georgia is the only team in college football, 133 FBS teams this year. Georgia is the only team to have a top 5 scoring offense and scoring defense.
you can't ask for much better than that. You really can't. You can't.
Yeah, you can ask for 4 things better.
Yeah.
And those are, I would say, a statistical impossibility.
Hmm.
Like if you run every team throughout college football history and say, give me a team that has a top 1 scoring offense and scoring defense, you're probably not going to find one. Period. 130 years, you
Yeah.
probably ain't finding one.
Yeah, probably not.
And just, I agree. It sucks to be in the position we're in right now. It sucks that I'm not sitting here looking at a replica ring to put on the desk that this damn computer and microphone are on. It
Hmm.
does. But the fact that in 7 seasons of Kirby Smart, we went from, I'll be honest, I was sitting in my apartment in 2016 after the Vanderbilt loss thinking, is this going to be the first time in my life Georgia hasn't made a bowl game? We went from that being a realistic conversation to, man, it sucks we didn't three-peat as national champions in a playoff.
I mean, you went to 3 national championships in 7 years. Who else is doing that?
The one team that did it just lost their head coach.
Yep. What a segue.
I, unintentional segue, if I'm being honest. But that does bring us to, I will go ahead and say it, the most unexpected segment we have ever had on the Nothing Finder podcast.
Yeah, we didn't even know what the hell we were going to talk about 36 hours ago.
Yes. Like we were like, all right, so do we spend 45 minutes on the national title game or what are we doing here?
Yeah.
But Saban never fails to give us something to talk about.
Hmm.
Never fails. Whether it's trash in their offensive line, in their quarterback, and their wide receivers, or whether it is a shocking announcement of the second 72-year-old man in about 6 hours to be unemployed. Um, Pete Carroll's the other one.
Yeah.
Nick Saban announced he will be retiring as the head coach of the University of Alabama's football team. And even as Georgia fans, I truly hope there's no one that listens to this. If this audio hits your ear holes and you do not think that Nick Saban is the greatest coach to ever coach a college football team, go ahead and turn it off right here.
Mm.
Like because obviously we can't help you're kind of stupid.
Yeah, you're just in denial. You have a big dump in your pants.
Because as much as we all hate Nick Saban, be honest, like I'm not going to try and say that I don't hate Nick Saban because I do. But you can't hate somebody without them giving you a reason to hate them.
You
And
hate the fact
that's
that he's been the gold standard. He's been the best at what he's done, you know, the last 20 years.
Nick Saban has been a top football coach in college football. You know, whether it's a top five up and comer or top five coach or the greatest of all time since before I was born.
Mm.
Like there is quite literally nothing you can do to take away from the legacy that he left, whether it be at Toledo, Michigan State, LSU, Alabama. It does not matter. 7 rings since 2003.
20 years. 7 in 20 years.
That is on average better than one every 3 years.
Mhm. The whole stat they threw out, there hasn't, well, now it's 4 years, but they said there hadn't been a recruiting class that Saban's had at Alabama that hadn't won, a championship every 3 years.
Right.
Now it's four, but yeah,
I just think about the coaching tree that he has of guys that have won national titles or been to the playoff.
hmm
I mean, obviously you have Kirby Smart. You have Jimbo Fisher won a title in last year of the BCS.
hmm
Steve Sarkisian made the playoff. I don't think it's very much of a stretch to say that Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss are going to make it next year.
right.
And I'm sure there's plenty of people that I'm forgetting in this list of teams that have won titles or are going to make the playoff. Like we're just in this whole little bit is just trying to, for as much shit as we've talked about Nick Saban in 2.5 years, or I don't know, however long we've been around, year and a half, 2 years, something like that. I don't know.
Something like that. Yeah,
Time's not real.
right.
For as much shit as we've talked, Nick Saban is the greatest to ever do it, and it'll probably take 20 years for somebody to get close to that conversation.
We think we have a guy here that can do that.
Yeah, there is a lot of dominoes that have to fall the right way for that to happen.
Right.
And with Nick Saban's retirement, Kirby Smart and Dabo Sweeney are currently tied for the most national titles among active Power 5 head coaches. They both have two. Ironically, Dabo got his two by beating Alabama, and Kirby got one of his by beating Alabama.
Yeah. So do all that with Nick Saban still coaching. I think it makes it all the more impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and now getting into a little bit more of the aftermath because we're still a Georgia podcast. We still hate Nick Saban. We're
Mhm.
thankful right now. Yesterday, I was not. Today, I'm grateful.
Yeah.
It's all about personal growth.
Yeah.
But Alabama active players have a 30-day window in which they can choose to enter the transfer portal. Five-star plus wide receiver Ryan Williams decommitted from Alabama after the retirement news. He is currently crystal balled to Auburn, shockingly.
Right.
Um, a team that passed the ball worse than Vanderbilt this season.
They're still rocking with Peyton Thorne next year as of right now. So good luck with that.
Poor choice. Poor choice.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
We'll get into that. We'll have to talk to Auburn people at some point this offseason and find out what the hell is going on.
What kind of NIL money do they really have? Because they already have another five-star receiver that they got in that recruiting cycle too. So I,
It, I mean, the guy that owns Yellowwood is their biggest booster. So are we just about to see Yellowwood commercials where it's just the entire Auburn team carrying lumber?
well, and Tim Cook, the Apple CEO, went there too. So I mean,
Mm,
they got some big money people.
I knew I hated Apple for a reason.
That's why you.
Um,
Never mind.
uh, so after the SEC championship, Kirby sought out um, Alabama safety Caleb Downs. Probably had a conversation similar to what Nick Saban and Jermaine Burton had a few years ago. Just saying. Um, and when Nick Saban,
Although
go ahead.
he, so I saw somewhere that if Caleb Downs were to enter the portal, apparently Ohio State's already put it out there for him, so he may be leaning that way, assuming that he goes in the portal. That's
Uh,
tampering
right.
doesn't exist, right?
No, 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 no. There's no tampering ever. Period.
No,
Um, it's possible that Caleb Downs comes to Georgia. I will go ahead and throw this out there, and you can hold me to it. If he transfers to Georgia, he's overhyped as a safety. As an athlete,
mm,
one of the best in the country.
yeah,
Punt returner, kick returner, absolutely. But as a
mm,
safety, he's got work to do. Quite a bit of work to do. If he's a 3 year guy, it's because he did transfer to a program that is able to turn out top 2 round safeties. Which, for being honest, there's only one program in the country that's had multiple top 3 round safeties over the last 2 years, and that's Georgia. So
it is. Hmm.
just just saying. Um, so before we get into much of the rest of this, at what point during the season do you think Nick Saban decided to retire?
Probably when, honestly, I think it's probably during the spring game when they were going through the different quarterbacks and they had to bring in what Tyler Buckner from Notre Dame.
Lacrosse
And I know
player.
Nick. What's that? Yeah,
Lacrosse
yeah,
player.
yeah. Went back to Notre Dame to play lacrosse. I mean, I think he kind of knew all year, and I for one am kind of thankful that he didn't do the whole retirement tour thing like Coach K did because it's fucking gross. As
Yeah.
a it's weird. It's a weird thing. But I mean, I think we were saying that before the season started because like he seemed very like introspective and kind of like not the Saban that we had seen, the last, 17 years of being like hypercritical and all that. He kind of just seemed to just be kind of taking it all in. So I mean,
Yeah.
I think he knew all year that this was going to be it.
Yeah. I have I think I agree with you more, and I think a big part of it is when he took an international vacation with just his family this year,
Yeah. Hmm.
and when you saw those pictures of him hanging out with his grandkids on the boat,
Hmm.
was the point of where he was like, I'm really missing this to hang out with kids that use words I've never heard of before.
Well, and he bought a $17 million house in Jupiter, Florida, right next to like Tiger Woods and stuff too. So I mean, he had to use at some point.
I How much would you pay for a subscription to get a mic'd up round of golf between Tiger Woods, who low key great shit talker,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
John Daly, and Nick Saban? Just like once a
Uh,
week, they play a round of golf. How much would you pay for that subscription to get the mic'd up version?
hmm. Like that more than my cable package that I'm paying for right now.
I That's a great argument. I haven't turned on my damn cable since the game ended on Monday.
Yeah, I don't even know why I have it. I don't watch anything besides football.
If it weren't for the very short period of time between college football and baseball starting, probably would not have cable.
Yeah,
But like, what's the point of cancel it for 60 days?
right. Then you got to probably pay a fee and all that other stuff. So yeah, let's keep it.
Um, but is there anyone else that you think Georgia should try to make a run at on this Alabama team if they enter the portal? Because Georgia's not doing any tampering. That nobody does that.
No, no, no one. I mean the running back room is stacked at this
Roydell
point.
Williams, I was about to say Roydell Williams is already in the portal.
Oh, I missed that. Okay.
Yeah,
What about
he pretty much the Rose Bowl ended and he went to sleep and woke up in the portal.
how did I get here in the portal?
Hell of a
What a
night in
strange place to
LA.
wake up. Yeah, right. I Justice Hayes would be one that I mean, I would be interested in. Georgia Legacy, his dad obviously played there.
His
Just I mean,
dad's
just
the
by
one
name
that
alone.
caught the hobnail boot play.
Yeah, I mean, still shocked that he ended up going to Alabama over Georgia. We could have really used him this year, but I mean, I still think there could be some space made for him.
I'll be honest, the pettiness in me says no because he explicitly went to Alabama because he didn't want to play where his dad played.
I can get that to a certain extent. So I
I don't
don't
know.
know,
If
but I
you
mean,
can't
that's
live
really
up
the,
to the pedestal that you got put on, it's your
yeah,
fault.
yeah, exactly. Um, I mean, that's really it because there's not anybody on that offensive line I want. Most of the defense that's worth a damn is going to the NFL. So I don't know.
If I could cherry pick anyone off of that roster, it's Chris Braswell, the guy that played edge opposite of Dallas Turner.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the one guy because if there's one position that I want Georgia to get better at this year, it's the defensive line. And if you have a guy like him coming off the edge, it's going to make the rest of your defensive line better.
yeah, yeah. You can't argue that
And that's really it. I think regardless of what 247 says, I think that Georgia's roster is on the same level, if not a little bit better, than Alabama's, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
for sure. Yeah, I agree.
All right, betting favorites as of Monday. Nope,
And this,
not
well,
Monday because
this.
he retired yesterday.
Oh, I don't know why the hell I said money. I don't know what day it is. But all this, okay, so everything I had put down here is like completely changed. And I think it's changed even more since I looked at a different thing. So, Cole Kublik, if I can say his name, about 4 hours ago, maybe 5 hours ago, had put out the updated odds from Bet Online about who the next head coach should be. Kalen DeBoer was 10 to 11, which is an odd way to say that, but
That's damn
he,
near 100% is the problem.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Mike Norvell's 3-2. Steve Sarkisian's 2-1. Dan Lanning 7-2. Although he's not going now. He's made that clear he's not going. Um, Lane Kiffin's 5-1. Dabo's 25-1. Which Dabo he has a clause, an Alabama clause in his contract saying that he would have to pay Clemson 150% of his salary if he were to go to Alabama. So not only is Alabama not going to get him, I mean he's not going to pay that anyway. So that's a no. For those wanting Deion Sanders, he's 33-1. That's not going to happen.
No,
Um, just some other ones just to pick out. Urban Meyer's 40-1. Again, that's not going to happen. Billy Napier 50-1. That would be fun to see. That ain't going to happen.
no, no,
Glenn
absolutely not.
Glenn Schumann's 50-1. Same odds as Kirby to go there.
I think they've got 10 times better odds to get Glenn Schumann than Kirby Smart.
Right, that's odd that I mean, because Glenn would cost a lot less.
Yeah, but I think that's more of them saying that Glenn Schumann is committed to staying at Georgia versus
Hmm.
going somewhere else. Especially, we're going to say this probably up until the point that they hire a head coach. You don't want to be the guy after the guy,
Yeah,
but let alone the guy after the goat.
right. Um, But Glenn Schumann, Kirby Smart, and Will Muschamp are all 50 to 1. Same odds as Ryan Day as well, and Mike Vrabel. So, um, again, I wish I would have looked at this before, but like Kalen DeBoer, like I don't know what his like background is necessarily. Is he like where he's from and where he really cut his teeth at? Because I know he's kind of been at all kinds of different levels, but I mean, he's probably seriously thinking about it. I'm sure they've made overtures toward him already. But Mike Norvell, though,
That's interesting.
that is an interesting one. Uh,
I'm gonna throw a name out that wasn't mentioned because texted with Connor O'Gara from SDS today just because I was listening to their stuff about Nick Saban, and I said if Bama goes with a coordinator, what about Jim Knowles from Ohio State?
mm,
Led
okay.
a top 10 defense at both Oklahoma State and Ohio State.
Mm,
Um, and he said, don't necessarily think that they go in that direction, but if they get to a point where they're looking at coordinators, maybe they go after a guy like Lance Leipold from Kansas. And Lance Leipold is the head coach, not a coordinator. But he's
mm,
saying if they get out of that like top tier of coaches,
mm,
why wouldn't Lance Leipold get a look?
mm. I
I
mean, it
don't
wouldn't be a
hate
bad
it.
hire. He's a good coach.
I was about to say I don't hate it whatsoever,
Yeah.
but the big concern for me at that point is that Lance just lost his offensive coordinator to Penn State,
Mm.
and we haven't seen him run a team without that specific offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and then like, what would the fan base think of that? And like, would they be able to retain the players? Like, I mean, you mentioned, I mean,
Well,
Alabama's usually like right up there at one or two with like total like talent composite. Like, would you got to
if
worry about
they
keeping those guys in that team?
if they're able to get him in a room with the players, specifically offense, and be just like have a highlight reel and him just sit down and be like, before you talk to your agent and go to the portal, watch this. Click.
Mm. Yeah.
Because Lance Leipold and the offense that they've run, granted it was with the offensive coordinator, it was still Lance's offense,
Mm.
is one of the I'll say it's schematically one of the best offenses in the country. The problem is they don't have the players to run it to an effectiveness
Mm.
of a title contender. But if he can pair that with a defense and defensive players that you could get at Alabama, I think there's a good shot that they don't miss much of a beat after this year. I think this year, no matter what's going to be a transitory year for Alabama. I think it's going to be rough,
Yeah. Yeah.
but going into 2025, I think is where they can kind of find their level with it.
Yeah. I think that's fair. It,
I I'm concerned about the Kalen DeBoer thing. The
mm,
reason that I didn't think that he was going to go to Alabama is because of the style of offense that he's always run. He's more of an air raid kind of guy, pretty much
yeah.
from his time at NAIA all the way up to where he's at now.
Mm.
But if Alabama's willing to go there, they may not miss much of a beat considering that you can, you know, you can still get guys out of the portal. Still think
Yeah.
next year is going to be a problem. Jalen
Mm.
Milroe running an air raid offense, not good.
No, that I would love to see it though. That would be fun. That makes me a lot less nervous about going to Tuscaloosa. That's for damn sure.
Yeah,
Have Jalen Milroe throw it 50 times a game. Hell yeah, sign me up.
please.
Yeah.
Uh, what a 1 to 1 or 1 to 10 interception to pass attempt ratio.
Oh my God. Yeah, sign me up, please. Oh man.
So so who do you think Alabama should go after?
Like for if I were an Alabama fan,
Yeah. Struggle
yeah,
to put yourself in that mindset
it's
of like no branches on the family tree situation.
shit. So Lanning would have been my guy.
I agree.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, but again, I appreciate the fact that he came out and had like a fucking hype video saying he's not going anywhere. That's a different way to do it.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I like it. I like it a lot. And that leaves, uh, I'm gonna go back to the question, but it kind of leaves the opportunity. Let's say Kirby leaves in like 10 years. I don't know. Dan Lanning comes home.
I'm
Maybe at
all
that point.
for that.
So just yeah, skip out on Bama for now. Wait a little bit till Kirby, has made all his money, he wants to go do something else. Come home. No, but I mean, Lane makes made a lot of sense, but at the same time, I mean, you don't want to be the guy after the guy. I think Greg McElroy said that there's a 0% chance that Lane or who the hell, somebody else, I can't remember who it was, but he said there's a 0% chance that Lane's going to be even like contacted or vetted to be the head coach there. So he's not gonna be it.
So there's some
Um,
sour grapes with his departure.
yeah, he basically made that very well known in his morning show out there in Birmingham. But God, Mike Norvell, I think they can get him decently cheap. He has a $4 million buyout.
Which is nothing in the world of college football
Right,
today.
exactly. So I think he probably should be at the top of their list because especially how, it ended at Florida State this year. Um, and honestly, I mean, he's probably the best coach out there for that. But I mean, uh, in the group chat, it was brought up too. The way that it ended this year in Florida State, and if they end up hiring him at Alabama, you got to feel good as a Georgia fan, right? Because I
Yes.
mean, culturally, I mean, that shit just fell apart. As soon as it got tough, you saw the
Yeah.
two opposite ends of the spectrum. You saw Florida State just fucking quit, and then Georgia, even, really didn't have anything to play for. Again, won by 60. Like pretty much everybody that could play played their ass off and made a point.
Yeah.
So, um, I mean, but I think Norvell probably makes the most sense. He's probably the best that they can do right now. Uh,
I don't think any coach that goes there right now lasts longer than 3 years.
it's a it's a rebound. It's not going to be long term. Like, what are
Yeah.
the chances that you go from somebody that you had 17 years to having like another like generational guy? Like, it's not going to happen
No.
unless you're the Packers with your quarterbacks, or honestly, going from Rick to Kirby worked out for us. But
But
um,
that was great to elite.
yeah,
You're not going elite to elite. It's
right.
just
There's no way.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'll tell you who would be fucking hilarious if James Franklin
We had the
or Ryan Day were
same
there.
guy for this next part. God, that's who I want to go.
James Franklin would be fucking perfect in Tuscaloosa.
For
Um,
everyone that's not an Alabama fan, please
yeah,
James Franklin.
yeah. I mean, I jokingly said Butch Jones, and obviously that's not going to happen. Dan Quinn was on this betting list as well. He's not going to go.
LOL.
He's probably Dan. I thought Dan Quinn would be a good college head coach because he's not anything of substance. He's just like rah rah, like go get him.
Yeah, but those guys still don't. I mean, I apologize, South Carolina fans, but that's Shane Beamer.
Hmm.
See where that? I mean, they.
6-6 every year, right?
I was about to say he's a career 500 head coach.
Hmm.
Like
Somebody
that's
jokingly on Twitter said they better not come take Shane Beamer from us. I'm like, trust me, they're not doing that.
no, no. They would actually find a way to do a fan controlled football team
Hmm.
before going to Shane Beamer.
Yeah. But
I,
James Franklin would be hilarious to go there.
I
For sure.
Derek Dooley wouldn't hate it. I would actually enjoy that. I would
That would
love
be
to see his maroon pants and
ooh.
stool on the sideline as
Yep.
like I can just picture it.
Mhm.
Like the sideline photographer from the other side gets a picture of Derek Dooley in maroon pants and on a maroon stool or crimson, my bad,
Yeah.
with his head down, play sheet in one hand, as you see Oscar Delp hurdling someone right in front of him. Give me that picture.
frame it, put it up in the office.
I would paint this entire wall behind me with that and turn the background off on Zoom.
Ryan Day would be another funny one. I mean, I
I
know that
mean,
that's not going to happen,
he's
but
just transferring third bases.
I'm shit pretty much. Oh,
Still never get home.
never. Nope. No one's bringing him home.
Oh,
That godly, that would be hilarious. But I don't know, man. It will be. I'm hoping they do it sooner than later because like I'm anxious just to see how this is going to go because obviously this is going to
the
impact.
longer it takes, the longer it takes for them to get back to where they're at now.
Yeah. Hmm.
So screw it. Wait till February. Wait till March. Let's go.
Well, I mean, even like with the 2024 recruiting class, I think today was it today? I think it was today was the first day that they could talk to like any remaining recruits that they have for this recruiting class for the February signing day. Um,
And the only, I
so
mean, they lost their defensive coordinator too. Kevin Steele retired, so
yeah,
they have like 32-year-old Tommy Reese trying to convince an entire class to stay on.
like what was it? Wow, what the hell was his name? Ryan Williams, I think. I think it
Yeah,
was him, 5-star plus receiver that decommitted from them because he didn't sign a letter of intent.
yeah,
Yeah, we talked about him earlier, but
yeah, yeah.
I mean, that was a huge loss for them potentially. I mean, he could always come back. Who knows? But dominoes are going to keep falling. I mean, I'm very curious to see how they end up, uh, what route they end up going, because obviously that impacts us because we played them this year, and us meaning Georgia, of course. And just I mean, the rest of the league. I mean, it's crazy, crazy times. I mean, in 72, like it shouldn't come as a surprise, but then at the same time, like you never thought you'd see the day.
No, 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 no. I honestly thought Saban would still be coaching at Alabama after I was dead. Like that's just the point that I'd resigned myself to.
Mhm. But I'm glad. I mean, I'm glad that he's going out with with some like he's not like senile like Joe Paterno was at the end of that whole thing.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, he's still witty, enough, especially for a 72-year-old. So,
and
I'm sure he'll take over for Corso or whatever, put on the headgear.
at the end of the day, whether you like him, whether you love him, whether you hate him, he's still a 72-year-old man that wants to spend time with his grandkids and his wife as he's getting older. And I respect the hell out of him for having the self awareness at this point to be like, I gotta stop chasing my ego.
Mhm.
And instead of trying to go out on top every year in a world where it's getting nothing but more difficult every year,
Yep.
I'm just gonna go home.
At 72, do you want? I mean, I think he even said it in his like goodbye letter or whatever, like or whatever interview did. Like, would you at 72, do you want to work 14-hour days, 7 days a week?
No, I
No,
don't want to do that
I
at
know.
28.
No, fuck that.
No,
Even for the money, absolutely not. Nope.
no, no. Um, but I think it's going to do it for us tonight here, guys. So, as always, follow our social media at nothing.finder.pod on Instagram, at finderpod on Twitter. Just look us up on Facebook and YouTube, and you will find us there. Rate and view the show 5 stars. Send us a screenshot. We will send you a sticker.
Oh,
And
and Connect Savannah, best
yes,
podcast, Twitter, Instagram, do every day. Don't forget, put a reminder on your calendar on your phone. First thing when you wake up, get a few different emails in there. Want to win.
yeah. I will paraphrase what the great Ricky Bobby said. If you don't vote for us, fuck you.
Indeed. I don't know what to do with my hands.
But as always, guys, remember there's nothing finer in the land.
Than a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan.